Hello, welcome back to the channel and the next episode of Robotics Expert. So we are continuing learning about all the different robots that you can find in the Fallout series. So today we're talking about the Assaultrons, and it's another RobCo product. Mr. House obviously made an absolute fortune in government and military contracts, as well as everything that he was involved with Vault-Tec. Clearly that's where he made a lot of his money. And clearly Assaultrons, you can tell just from the name that they were intended for military applications, and they were being sold to the US military as early as 2072, but we don't have any record of them seeing action and combat during the Sino-American War. But a lot of them are still active in the Commonwealth, typically found in kind of military locations and secret government locations, things like that. And they are dangerous due to their combat protocols. The gunners as well have been enterprising enough to acquire and reprogram a number of them, so you do often find Assaultrons in gunner encampments, gunner controlled locations as well, so something to be aware of. So let's have a look at the construction. So I've just spawned this basic one in just so that we can get a good look. So they're probably the most humanoid outside of the Gen 1 and 2 synths of the Institute, and the Institute were making reprogrammable synthetic human slaves. They weren't really making robots in that sense. That was different kind of goal, whereas these are definitely supposed to be robots, but very, very human-like in their design. The legs are articulated very much like human legs are. We've got a knee, we've got an ankle and hips, and they even have hips as well. The arms also follow a similar design, so we've got kind of ball joint in the shoulder, elbow, and then claw hands there as well. The torso appears human, and check out the curves there. It's not a stretch to think that they do have a feminine figure. That seems to be intentional for some reason. Not sure why that was the case, but clearly that was the design that they were going for. And then they have their head, which has visual sensors, but it also has a laser emitter in the middle. So what about combat for these robots? They were obviously, that was their entire kind of purpose, is combat. So they do have quite a lot of things, a lot of features that make them pretty effective in combat. They are kind of one of the more dangerous robots, probably ranking just below the sentry bots in terms of difficulty. So they're fast and they're aggressive, so they can charge in at speed for melee attacks, and can do a lot of damage with that. The Invader variant has electrified claws, so in the claws there's, the little kind of, like you get the electrified mods for blades and things, so that deals energy damage as well. And the Dominator, which is kind of the highest level Assaultron, has built-in blades in its arms, and it also has the ability to generate a stealth field like a built-in stealth boy. Then of course there's the giant Laserface. So, they have this face laser that is extremely powerful, and it can deal an awful lot of damage, but it does need time to charge up, and there is a clear visual effect that you can see with it, that you can see that it's charging, you can see that it's developing, and there's a sound effect as well. I'll see if I can demonstrate. Yeah, so you can see it's charging up. Oh, hello, trash can Carla. Yeah. So that's the sound effect that you're looking at, but everything's going to be attacking this. There you go. Yeah, so you can see they're fast and they're powerful. And then you can see that the face laser charges up over time, and you can see it building up to the attack. Excuse me. Okay. Oh, Jesus. I'm just spawned in another Assaultron after defeating that one that I've turned the combat back off again. Especially because Trash Can Carla decided to steal my good power armour, and because she's not a settler, I can't just tell her to get out of it, so we're just going to ignore that all of that happened. But we got a good demonstration of the way the laser works, and it's important to note that normally when you are fighting the Assaultrons, you'll notice that compared to the other parts of the body, the head is actually a lot tougher and takes a lot less damage. But while they're charging up the face laser, the armoured part of the head can opens up, so it's a bit more vulnerable to damage. It's exposed and it's weakened in that state, and if you do manage to cripple the head, then that disables the face laser. You can also cripple the legs, which does slow them down, and they can't kind of chase you quite as well, but they will still try. So they will drag themselves across the ground with their arms. It does make it a wee bit easier to put some space between you and them to regroup, but they can also pull the self-destruct thing if they're damaged sufficiently, like most of the other robots, where they trigger a self-destruct and then run at you to try and take you down with them, which is fun. Yeah, so the Assaultron's definitely a bit on the dangerous side. Let's see if we can do a wee hack of this thing. Yeah, so we can initiate the self-destruct. Let's not do that, that's a bit mean. But yeah, they're pretty dangerous, and they do come after you even if you cripple the legs. Unlike the ghouls, where if you cripple their legs, they'll just kind of lie there helpless. Assaultrons don't do that. They're still going to keep trying to take you down. And the Wrist Devil variants of the Assaultron can have shish kebabs on their arms instead of blades at the higher levels. The Novatrons at Nuka World have lasers in their arms as well. They're typically found at the RobCo Battle Zone, which is in the Galactic Zone part of the park, and they took part in combat demonstrations in order to entertain visitors pre-war. There are a couple of interesting, unique variants, so I'm just going to destroy this one so that I can fast travel. And we're going to head to Easy City Downs. Yeah, so this place, it is radar aligned, so you're not actually allowed to participate in anything. But I think all the robots are actually dead, because I must have been here already. But yeah, so basically this was an old sort of racetrack that presumably used for like horse racing or greyhound racing, if that was a thing. Certainly a thing here in the UK. And some Enterprise and Raiders, after the bombs, have set up a robot racing enterprise here, and it's a guy called Eager Ernie who was in charge of it. He's probably dead because I must have cleared out this location at some point, and then the Raiders have just respawned. But you can't actually bet on it yourself, unfortunately. You don't get to join in the fun with that, but if you can sneak in and not be noticed, then you can see the races going on. And there's a bunch of different robots, and they've all been given quite fun names, but there's two Assaultrons that are in the lineup. One is this one here, which is the Iron Maiden, which is named after a supposed medieval torture device that consists of an iron case with spikes on the inside, and somebody would be forced in there and the door closed on them. It sounds pretty horrific, but based on kind of historical evidence, it seems unlikely that they never actually existed, nor were they used for that purpose, as there's no mention of them before the 19th century. Of course, there's a metal band who took the name, and they've been going for 45 years, still going strong. I did get to see Iron Maiden at the Download Music Festival back in 2013, where they headlined alongside Slipknot and Rammstein. Phenomenal concert. That was such a good weekend. And yeah, but the torture device does seem to be fictional, but it's something that people, especially in the Victorian era, were quite entertained by the idea of it. But it does seem to be kind of fabricated and not real. But there is also another one here. Sometimes I think it does vary which robots take part in each race. They kind of change it round on a regular basis. There we go, I think this is her. Yep, Lady Lovelace. This is the other Assaultron that can take part in these races. And it's a completely different kind of reference, but also I think a very interesting one. So Lady Lovelace is a reference to Ada Lovelace, who was an English mathematician born in 1815 and she died in 1852, so she's quite young. But Ada Lovelace is widely considered to be the first computer programmer in the world due to her work on Charles Babbage's analytical engine, which was an extremely early mechanical computer design. So Ada Lovelace is kind of the mother of computer programming. She was pretty much regarded as the first, which is pretty awesome because certainly at that time, women taking part in science and, you know, being academic and things wasn't really something that a lot of people liked. You know, it's very much, you know, engineering and science and medicine and things like that was very much deemed to be something that men do and women don't. Obviously, we are, you know, moving away from that now in this modern world. Because one thing I think some people still assume that, you know, being a vet is more of a man's job than a woman's job. I have faced that in my career. But if you look at the numbers, actually, I think most of the kind of vet school classes, certainly here in the UK that I know of, it's about 60 to 70% female, and that has definitely shifted. Even, you know, when I was at university compared to now, it is definitely shifting in that direction. And the thing is that in this day and age, anybody can be anything they want to be. I don't really believe that anybody should be excluded from a particular career because of their gender or any other factor that they have no control over. You know, that's kind of the thing. But yeah, it's a fun little reference. I do really like Ada Lovelace. But for our next one, we're going to go over to Good Neighbour. If I can remember how the map works. There's Good Neighbour. And I'm pretty sure you'll know who I'm going to meet now. There she is. Guns, guns, guns. So let's meet the proprietor, who is Cleo. Cleo. There we go. Hi, Cleo.
Every weapon you see here could be the difference between life and death, baby.
Here we go. So, yep, Cleo. What are you, Cleo?
What are you?
I'm a woman, baby. Can't you tell?
So, yeah. Cleo's a woman. It's the 23rd century, we're going with it. Besides, Cleo has far too many weapons to argue with her about it, so yes.
You certainly look like a woman, yes.
Then that's all that matters, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now are you buying what I'm selling?
Yeah, let's have a look.
I've got a few minutes to browse.
Murder and mayhem at a discount.
Sounds good. So yeah, Cleo, you might be interested if you like your heavy weapons, because she sells the Party Starter, which is a unique missile launcher that has the Assassin's legendary effect on it, so it does 50% more damage to humans. So that's interesting for a shopkeeper that is a robot. You know, gives you a bit of a thought, and I think Cleo is very interesting because this is an Assaultron. She's an Assaultron, there's no denying that, but she's obviously developed a personality in that sense and developed something more akin to AI, you know, compared to most of the Assaultrons that you run into that are just like, I have to kill, so I'm going to kill. So I think that's very, very interesting. But yeah, there's a couple of things about Cleo that you would potentially want to take note of. One is that she has a holotape about joining the railroad, so clearly the railroad tried to recruit her at some point to be an agent. Perhaps the thinking is that because Cleo's a robot, she might have some sympathy for the synths. Personality-wise, it doesn't seem likely, but Cleo's definitely developed her own personality and become a true AI, and I think she's brilliant, but I think her terminal is very interesting, so we're going to sneak a wee look at that if you've never actually looked at this before. So yeah, have a plan to kill everyone you meet. So Cleo has a contingency plan to deal with a lot of her neighbours, including Daisy, who's right next door at the general store. She's too close to home for outright assault to be viable without suspicion, so need to take her out from a long distance. Bobby no-nos. Wait till night, sneak into the hideout, dismantle the lights, then kill one by one. Whitechapel Charlie, who's also not technically a person. Pay off one of his associates. Good help is so hard to hold on to these days. Magnolia. Cleo likes Magnolia. A fellow working girl deserves a chance. Burn down the third rail as a warning. If she resists after that, clean shot to the head. Interesting. Then the Neighbourhood Watch. Wait till the next super mutant or raider attack. High explosives at key areas of the defensive perimeter. Relocation necessary afterwards, as good neighbour would be left vulnerable. So plans to deal with all the Neighbourhood Watch. And then of course there's Hancock. And Fahrenheit, who is his bodyguard and also I believe his daughter. So kill the bodyguard first, strangulation while she sleeps, then load all doses of chems in the old state house with poisons, collateral damage possible but losses acceptable without too much disruption to the business. So yeah, Cleo is prepared for any eventuality and for, you know, having to eliminate her neighbours if that is something that she deems necessary. So, you know, you don't really want to argue with her about anything in that regard, because she has plans, she's prepared. But yeah, it's fun, and I think that's the interesting thing, because obviously, you know, Diamond City, the whole issue there is that they kicked out all the ghouls and they don't like synths, and it's only, you know, it's all very much a humans only kind of a deal, whereas come to Good Neighbour and Hancock is just like, yeah, as long as you behave yourself to my standards, you're welcome to stay, whatever you are, be you human, ghoul, robot, whatever, except synths, because nobody likes synths, but that's fair enough. And then the final one is Pam. So for this one, on this save file, I need to go to the Bridwin, because this is my original save file where I did the Brotherhood ending, so Pam is no longer at the Old North Church, but that's normally where you would find her. Well done. So yeah, this is Pam, the predictive analytic machine. So she was created as a sophisticated AI to predict... Sorry, for that's a hell of a typo. Yeah. My notes say prejudice, but it's supposed to be predict. Anyway, so sophisticated AI to predict future events based on data fed into her. So Pam actually managed to accurately predict the nukes, for example. So did Mr. House, right enough. And basically was used to collect data and use that with things like pattern recognition to predict what's going to happen. And to kind of improve things. So I think Mr. House would be proud of this particular unit, because that's something that he did a lot of as well. So it was obviously found quite useful, and Pam kind of lay dormant for a long time in the switchboard, which was a secret Defence Intelligence Agency bunker that was hidden under a Slocum's Joe donut shop. And when the railroad took that as their base, if you remember, they were based at the switchboard and then they got attacked by the Institute and ended up in the Old North Church in the basement instead. So the switchboard was their original base, and it was something that was a pre-war secret bunker for intelligence and things like that, that was set up. I'm not here for you, leave me alone. Anyway, it's so annoying. As soon as you get within 20 feet of the guy, it's like, oh, have you got documents? Have you got documents? No. I do not have documents. I don't care. Anyway. So when they took over the switchboard, they discovered Pam and realised that she would be potentially very useful for their sneaky underground resistance movement to rescue all the synths and all the rest of it. Presumably Tinker Tom did a bit of work on her, and then if you decide to side with the Brotherhood of Steel and eliminate the Railroad, they'll ask you to retrieve Pam so that the Brotherhood can use her. And as she keeps saying that, they found her quite useful for improving vertibird efficiency and whatnot. So it's something that...
All data pertaining to Railroad has been uploaded to Prequin.
There you go. Because obviously Pam is still a robot that can be reprogrammed and things like that. Will you leave me alone, Proctor Quinlan? I'm talking to your robot friend. I'm not talking to you. Geese peace. But yeah, so they obviously want Pam for their own purposes, understandable, and especially because, the Brotherhood doesn't like anybody else having access to cool technology. It's only for them to keep a hold of, obviously. So Pam's quite unique. There's no personality, unlike Cleo, who has developed a personality and therefore has thoughts and opinions and plans to kill all her neighbours if the need arises. Pam doesn't really have that kind of personality, but the predictive capabilities are very interesting, and as she does tend to point out, she can't fully account for, human nature and the unpredictable chaos of the wasteland. So, like with any kind of predictions or anything like that, they're never guaranteed. So, it can be like, oh, there's a percentage chance of this happening, or if X is done, then Y is likely to happen, that kind of thing. So you can't fully kind of depend on it, but predictions like that can be very useful for planning and preparing for different things. So it definitely makes sense that it's something that the Brotherhood of Steel would want to have their hands on, and also something that the Railroad clearly found extremely useful. So yeah, the Assaultrons are interesting. They're obviously a new addition to the series in Fallout 4. I do believe they do show up in Fallout 76 as well, but I do like them. I think it's interesting, and they're definitely the most humanoid of the robots that we typically see. So, again, quite a different design. The giant face laser, the Laserface, as if you will, is an interesting kind of feature. So yeah, the Assaultrons are kind of fun, and I dare say in future installments we'll probably encounter some more interesting varieties of robot. But for now, there's one more that we need to talk about, and I'm looking at him right now, is the big guy. So next week we're going to finish off Robotics Expert by chatting about Liberty Prime, about his history, his creation, and the kind of events that transpire. And this obviously something that the Brotherhood found in the kind of underground part of the Pentagon and wanted to use them for their own purposes, which they did. And then he got trashed and had to be rebuilt, which is why he's now here at stomping around Boston Airport. So that's going to be next week. Just to mention, obviously, I'm sure most of you guys are aware that, things have been a bit hectic over here. So the video essay for October is ready to be recorded, essentially, but I haven't had time to really kind of get it organised, so I'm going to give myself a couple more weeks to kind of get it put together, because I don't want to try and rush it and then compromise on the quality and things like that. I want to get better at this, not let it get worse. So I'm going to need a bit more time to finish that off, but it will be coming just as soon as it's ready. And as for that, so on Tuesday the plan is to chat about some more fun locations in Point Lookout, because I think it's a really interesting DLC to explore. And then next Saturday we're going to talk about the big guy, so hopefully you'll come back for that. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love chatting and theorising with you guys about stuff, so definitely, let me know what you think, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.